Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
We always get questions about thinking in English,
Mm.
and today we're going to dive into this guide, Thinking in English, a practical guide,
Okay.
to really unlock the secrets to rewiring your brain for true fluency.
I think it's so fascinating how for so long,
Yeah.
language learning has been focused on the technical side of things, like grammar rules,
Uh-huh.
verb conjugations,
Yeah.
building up that vocabulary.
Hmm.
But this guide really highlights the mental shift
Right.
that needs to happen to become fluent.
Okay.
It's like the difference between
Yeah.
reading a recipe
Okay.
and actually cooking,
I like that.
like a delicious meal.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
You can know all the ingredients,
Right.
all the steps,
Uh-huh.
but until you get your hands dirty
Yeah.
and start experimenting,
Yeah.
you won't truly master it.
It's true. And this guide really drives home the point that translation
Yes.
is the enemy of fluency. It's like you're constantly stuck
Right.
in this mental loop,
Yeah.
going back and forth between your native language and
Yeah.
English.
It's exhausting.
It is. And have you ever noticed
Yes.
how exhausting that can be? You have a thought,
Right.
you translate it, then you have to speak,
Yeah.
then you have to translate the response back.
It's a lot.
It's so much.
Yeah, and it really prevents you from immersing yourself
Yeah.
fully in the conversation.
Right.
You're so focused on the mechanics
Right.
that you're missing out on the nuances,
Mm-hmm.
the humor,
Yeah.
the emotional connection.
It's true.
Thinking in English allows you to break free from that.
Okay, so we know translation is the villain,
Uh-huh.
but how do we actually start thinking directly in English? This guide suggests what they call simple English thoughts,
Okay.
and it sounds really basic,
Uh-huh.
but it's all about building that foundation.
Yeah.
Just like a house needs a solid base before you can add on the fancy roof
Mhm.
and the landscaping.
Exactly. It's about training your brain
Yeah.
to use English
Uh-huh.
for even the simplest thoughts and observations.
Like what?
Like if you're making coffee in the morning,
Okay.
instead of thinking it in your native language,
Yeah.
you think, I'm making coffee.
Okay.
Or you're walking down the street,
Uh-huh.
you see a beautiful tree.
Mm-hmm.
That tree is beautiful.
Okay.
Even just labeling objects around you,
Right.
phone,
Yeah.
table, window,
It's so simple.
it can make a big difference.
I think a lot of people underestimate the power
Right.
of these seemingly small actions,
Totally.
but it makes me think about
Yeah.
how children learn language.
Yeah.
They don't start with grammar textbooks.
No.
They're constantly immersed
Right.
in the sounds and the rhythms
Mhm.
of language.
Yeah.
And they start by associating words with objects and actions
Mm-hmm.
in their environment. So it's like we're tapping into that
Yeah.
same natural learning process
Yeah.
by just making English the language of our everyday thoughts.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the individual words.
Okay.
It's about training your brain to make those connections
Mm-hmm.
in English,
Yeah.
bypassing the translation step.
Right.
It's like building a mental bridge
I see.
between your thoughts
Okay.
and the English language.
So we're starting with these simple English thoughts.
Right.
But the guide takes it a step further
Okay.
with this technique called naming the world,
Yeah.
which is essentially the name game we all played as kids.
Yeah.
But instead of just pointing at things and saying their names,
Right.
we're consciously labeling objects around us.
Yeah.
In English, have you ever tried this?
I have.
I actually found it to be kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It might sound silly,
Yeah.
but it's actually a very powerful way to build vocabulary and reinforce those neural connections.
Okay.
Imagine you're walking through a park,
Okay.
and instead of just passively observing,
Yeah.
you're actively engaging
Right.
with your surroundings
Right.
in English. Tree, bench, bird, flower.
Right.
You're creating a mental map, but in English.
It's like you're rediscovering the world
Right.
through this new linguistic lens.
Yes, exactly.
And then the guide suggests that we can even start to have internal dialogues in English,
English.
which might sound a little strange at first,
Right.
but it's all about practicing that thinking in English muscle
Mhm.
in a safe and private space.
We all have these inner voices chattering away in our heads anyway.
Right.
So why not make them speak English?
Okay.
It's like giving your inner critic
Uh-huh.
a language lesson.
I like that.
So imagine you're trying to decide what to wear
Okay.
in the morning. Instead of thinking, should I wear the blue shirt or the white shirt
Right.
in your native language,
Uh-huh.
you think it in English.
Okay.
The blue shirt looks better today. I think I'll wear that.
And what's great is nobody has to know
Exactly.
that you're having these little conversations
Yeah.
with yourself in English.
That's your own little secret.
It's like having this secret weapon
Yeah.
for fluency that you can practice anywhere, anytime.
You have a personal English tutor
That's a good way to think about it.
that lives in your head.
Right.
And as you get more comfortable
Yeah.
with this internal dialogue, you can even start to imagine conversations in English.
Yeah.
Imagine you're at a restaurant ordering food or having a chat with a friend.
Yeah.
You can practice different scenarios, experiment with different vocabulary and expressions,
Right.
all without the pressure
Yeah.
of a real conversation.
So it's like giving yourself this private English-speaking stage to rehearse on before you have to perform in front of a live audience.
Exactly. And the more you practice these internal dialogues,
Yeah.
the more natural thinking in English becomes.
So we've talked about
Great.
starting small with simple thoughts, naming the world around us, having internal dialogues. But let's go beyond our own heads
Okay.
and talk about making decisions in English.
Right.
The guide highlights how powerful this is
Yes.
because it forces us to not only think in English,
Yeah.
but to actually process information and outcomes in the target language.
It's amazing how many small decisions you make throughout the day
Right.
without even realizing it.
Like what kind of decisions?
Should I take the stairs or the elevator?
Okay.
Should I have coffee or tea? Should I walk or take the bus?
Yeah.
By consciously making these decisions in English,
Right.
you're essentially training your brain
Yeah.
to think and react
Duh.
in the language
Yeah.
instinctively.
It's like you're rewiring
That's exactly
the
it.
decision-making part of your brain to operate in English.
To operate in English, yes.
And these seemingly small decisions
Right.
can have such a big impact
Totally.
on your overall fluency. Instead of translating every thought and choice,
Yeah.
you're building this direct pathway
Right.
between your thoughts and your actions in English.
With English, yeah.
So to recap, we've covered the importance of starting with simple thoughts, naming the world,
Right.
having internal dialogues,
Yeah.
and making decisions, all in English.
All in English.
These are great building blocks
They are.
for developing that thinking in English muscle.
Yeah.
But where do we go from here?
Right.
Stay tuned because in the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we're going to explore even more techniques for truly immersing yourself in the English language. Okay.
And making it an integral part of your daily life.
Sounds good.
We'll see you then.
Okay.
You know, building on what we were just talking about with these little decisions, the guide points out that it's not just about
Yeah.
like isolated techniques.
Right.
It's about weaving English into the very fabric of your day-to-day life.
I like that.
It's about creating an environment where
Yeah.
English is less of a subject to study and more like the air you breathe.
I love that idea. It makes me think of like those immersive language schools
Right.
where you can't speak your native language.
Yeah.
But creating that kind of environment in our everyday lives seems pretty daunting.
Right.
Where do you even begin?
Well, the good news is
Okay.
you don't have to move to an English-speaking country.
Right.
The source suggests starting with small,
Okay.
manageable changes that add up over time.
Like what?
Have you ever considered changing the language settings on your phone or computer
Oh, to English.
to English? Yeah.
You know, I actually tried that once.
Okay.
And I have to admit,
Yeah.
it was a little frustrating at first. I kept accidentally clicking on the wrong things
Right.
because I was so used to the layout in my native language.
Right.
But I can definitely see how
Okay.
it would force you to engage with English
Yeah.
more regularly.
Constantly throughout the day.
It's like having these constant mini lessons throughout the day.
Mini lessons, yeah.
Even when you're just checking email or
Yeah.
scrolling through social media.
Exactly. And it's those
Yeah.
small, repeated exposures that can make such a difference.
Okay.
It's like learning a new instrument.
Right.
You wouldn't expect to master it
Yeah.
by only practicing once a week.
No.
It's the daily consistent effort that really leads to progress.
Yeah.
So by changing your device settings,
Right.
you're essentially creating this constant stream of English input,
Right.
even when you're not actively studying.
And you know what I like about that?
Yeah.
It's passive learning,
Yeah.
but it's not mindless passive learning.
Right.
You're still actively engaging with the language,
Right.
even if it's just navigating through menus or reading notifications. It's like your brain is absorbing
Yeah.
English in the background while you're going about your day.
In the background, yeah.
It's sneaky learning at its best.
I like that sneaky learning.
Sneaky learning.
And you can apply that to
Sneaky.
other areas of your life as well.
Like what?
Think about your entertainment.
Okay.
Do you usually listen to music or watch movies?
Yeah.
In your native language?
Guilty as charged.
Okay.
I love discovering new music and films from around the world, but I tend to stick to what's familiar when I want to relax and unwind.
Well, imagine if you switched your default to English. Instead of reaching for that familiar playlist, explore English language music.
Okay.
You might discover some new favorite artists.
Right.
And you'll be exposing yourself to all these different accents and rhythms and vocabulary.
I see how all these little changes can add up. It's like you're creating this immersive English bubble around yourself, even if you're not physically living in an English-speaking environment.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, some people might find it overwhelming to suddenly switch all their entertainment to English.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people who are a little hesitant?
It's all about finding a balance.
Okay.
You don't have to go cold turkey.
Right.
Start by incorporating a little bit of English content each day.
Okay.
Maybe you listen to one English song on your commute. Or you watch one episode of an English TV show before bed.
Okay.
The key is consistency.
Right.
Not intensity.
So it's like building a new habit.
Exactly.
Start small.
Yeah.
Make it enjoyable. And gradually increase the amount of time you spend engaging with English.
And the great thing is
that
entertainment is inherently engaging.
It's true. It's learning disguised as leisure.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as you get more comfortable,
you
can start to challenge yourself a bit more.
Okay, like how?
Try watching movies without the subtitles.
Oh, without subtitles, okay.
Or listening to podcasts on topics that interest you.
And speaking of podcasts, there are so many great podcasts out there.
There are?
Specifically designed for English language learners.
Absolutely. Podcasts are a fantastic way to improve your listening, expand your vocabulary, and get exposed to all these different accents and speaking styles.
And you can listen to them anywhere, anytime.
Anywhere, anytime. That's the beauty of it.
It's like having an English tutor in your pocket.
You know, one of the things I find most helpful about podcasts, they often feature natural conversations between people.
Right.
It's different from listening to a textbook dialogue or a scripted news report.
Right. It's real people talking.
It's how real people use the language in everyday situations.
It's like eavesdropping on an English conversation.
In a good way.
But in a good way.
Yes.
You pick up on the slang, the idioms, the colloquialisms.
All those things.
All those things.
That textbooks miss.
That textbooks miss, exactly.
And it's a great way to get a feel for the rhythm and flow of spoken English.
And if you find yourself struggling to keep up with a podcast, don't be afraid to slow down the playback speed or listen to it multiple times.
Absolutely.
It's not a race.
It's not a race, no.
Goal is to understand and absorb the language.
Absorb it,
Not to just speed through it as quickly as possible.
And you know what else can be a great resource? Socializing.
Socializing. Oh, that's a good one.
Even if you don't live in an English-speaking country. There are so many opportunities now to connect with other English speakers.
Like what?
There are online language exchange platforms, social media groups, even apps that connect you with people who share your language learning goals.
And don't forget about local opportunities.
Right.
A lot of cities have English conversation clubs or meetups. Where you can practice your English.
In a relaxed and supportive environment.
In a more relaxed environment,
And you might even make some new friends along the way.
That's true. The key is to seek out those opportunities to use English in real life situations.
In real life situations,
Even if it feels a little intimidating.
Even if it's intimidating.
At first.
The more you practice, the more comfortable you become.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this section. From changing your device settings, embracing English entertainment, seeking out social opportunities, and connecting with other learners. It's clear that creating this immersive environment is all about finding ways to make English a natural part of your daily life.
A natural part of your life,
Both online and offline.
Both online and offline.
But let's be realistic.
Okay.
Learning a new language, especially to the point where you can think in it fluently, can be a very challenging journey.
It can be,
What does the source suggest for staying motivated and overcoming those inevitable bumps in the road?
Well, one of the most important things is setting realistic goals and celebrating those small victories. It's so easy to get caught up in the big picture. That dream of speaking English fluently and feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of work ahead of you. But remember, every step you take, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction.
It's like climbing a mountain. You don't focus on the summit the whole time. You focus on the next foothold, the next handhold. And every time you reach a new point, you take a moment to appreciate how far you've come.
Exactly. And those small victories can be so motivating. Did you successfully navigate a conversation in English? Did you understand a movie without subtitles? Did you finally master that tricky grammar rule? Take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate your progress. It'll help you stay positive and keep moving forward.
It's like giving yourself little rewards along the way.
Little rewards,
to keep that motivation high.
To keep it high,
But what about those moments when we hit a wall? Those times when we feel like we're not making any progress. No matter how hard we try. What advice does the source offer?
What advice?
For those challenging times.
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that setbacks and plateaus are a normal part of the learning process. Every language learner, even the most fluent ones, has experienced those moments of frustration and self-doubt. So don't beat yourself up if you're not progressing as quickly as you'd like.
It's like learning any new skill.
Exactly.
There are going to be times where you feel like you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
And 1 step back,
The important thing is to not give up.
Absolutely. And when you're feeling discouraged, it can be helpful to remind yourself of why you're learning English. Are you putting in all this effort? What do you hope to achieve by mastering the language? Whether it's connecting with people from other cultures, advancing your career, or just expanding your horizons. Focusing on those goals can really help you regain your perspective and reignite your passion.
It's like having that North Star guiding you. Through those rough patches. Reminding you why you embarked on this journey.
Exactly. And you know what else can help?
What's that?
During those challenging times, having a supportive community of fellow language learners.
That's a good idea.
Surrounding yourself with people who understand the challenges and triumphs of language learning can be so motivating and inspiring. Whether it's a local language exchange group, an online forum, or even just a friend who's also learning English. Having that shared experience can make a world of difference.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders.
Exactly.
All rooting for each other's success.
Rooting for each other,
And those shared experiences, both the struggles and the celebrations, create this sense of camaraderie. And make the journey feel less isolating. It's a reminder that you're not alone on this path.
You're not alone.
And remember, learning a new language is an ongoing adventure.
It is an adventure.
It's not about reaching a destination. It's about embracing the journey. I love that perspective.
It's about enjoying the process of discovery. Those aha moments. The connections we make along the way, the growth and expansion of our linguistic horizons.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful so far. We've explored so many practical strategies.
We have.
For thinking in English.
We're thinking in English, yes.
From creating an immersive environment. And setting realistic goals to celebrating small victories and finding support in a community of fellow learners.
It's so important.
It is.
And it's important to remember that the journey to fluency is uniquely personal. What works for one person might not work for another. So it's all about experimenting with different techniques. Finding what resonates with you and creating a learning experience that is both effective and enjoyable.
That's a good point. But wait,
Yeah.
There's more.
There's more.
Stick around for the final part of our deep dive into thinking in English, where we'll explore some even more creative and engaging techniques to help you unlock your full linguistic potential.
I like it.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into thinking in English.
Okay.
You know, we've been talking a lot about practical strategies and mindset shifts, but this guide takes things a step further by exploring this fascinating connection between our senses and language learning.
Interesting.
It's all about making English a multisensory experience rather than just a mental exercise.
I find that so interesting because we often think of language as something purely intellectual.
Like just words and grammar.
Words, grammar, rules.
Yeah.
But the reality is our brains process language through all of our senses, sight, sound, touch, even taste and smell.
And by tapping into those sensory pathways, we can really deepen our understanding and make the language feel more real, more embodied.
Yeah, more real.
Yeah, it makes me think about how we learn as children. You know, we don't just memorize definitions. We experience the world. Through our senses. We touch, we taste, we smell, we listen, we watch. And those sensory experiences become intertwined with the words we're learning, creating this richer, more lasting connection.
Absolutely. Think about learning a new word like apple. Instead of just reading the definition. Imagine holding a real apple in your hand. You can feel its smooth skin. Smell its sweet fragrance. Hear the crunch as you take a bite. You're engaging multiple senses. And it creates a much deeper and more memorable experience than just memorizing the word on a page.
So you're bringing the word to life.
You're bringing it to life.
And this guide suggests that we can apply this multi-sensory approach to all sorts of language learning activities. Like, for example, when you're reading a book in English, don't just skim the words. Try to visualize the scenes, the characters, the setting. Imagine the sounds, the smells, the textures.
Wow.
It's like creating your own movie in your mind.
I like that.
But in English.
And English.
And when you're listening to music in English, don't just focus on the lyrics. Pay attention to the melody, the rhythm, the instruments. Feel the emotions. The music evokes. Try to connect those sensory experiences with the meaning of the song.
That's powerful.
It really adds another layer of depth. I love how this approach transforms language learning from this purely intellectual exercise into this vibrant, multi-dimensional experience.
Multi-dimensional experience,
But let's get even more practical. This guide also emphasizes connecting English with physical actions and movements. How does that work?
Well, you know, there's this fascinating connection between our bodies and our minds. When we physically engage with something, it really reinforces that learning process. It's like the difference between reading about how to ride a bike and actually getting on a bike and pedaling. The physical experience just cements the learning.
So instead of just saying the word jump, you should actually jump.
You should actually jump.
I have to admit that sounds a little silly.
It sounds silly.
But I can see how it would make the word more memorable.
It would make it more memorable.
And you don't have to limit it. It's just action verbs.
No.
You can incorporate movement into all sorts of language learning. Like if you're learning prepositions like on, under, beside. You can use objects around you to demonstrate those concepts physically.
Demonstrate them physically,
It brings the language to life.
It does.
It's like turning your house into an English playground.
An English playground. I like that.
So we've covered a lot of ground
We have.
in this deep dive. Creating an immersive environment. Setting realistic goals. Celebrating small victories. Finding a supportive community. Engaging our senses. Even incorporating movement. It's clear that thinking in English is not just about mastering grammar and vocab.
It's bigger than that.
It's about transforming our entire relationship with the language.
And it's about consistency and persistence. Thinking in English is a skill.
It is a skill.
That develops over time with dedicated practice and a willingness to embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey.
The ups and downs, the bumps along the way.
Absolutely.
It's a journey of self-discovery. It's a process of rewiring our brains to think and express ourselves in a new way. To think in a new way.
And while it can be challenging,
it can be.
It's also incredibly rewarding.
Incredibly rewarding.
So for all of you out there who are on this journey to fluency, remember, you're not alone.
You're not alone? No.
There are tons of resources available, communities to support you, techniques to help you make English a natural part of your life.
A natural part of your life.
As you continue to practice and experiment with these techniques, you'll find that thinking in English becomes less of a struggle and more of a second nature.
More natural.
And you'll be able to express yourself more effortlessly, connect with others on a deeper level.
Connect deeper,
and open up a whole new world of possibilities.
A whole new world.
So what are you waiting for?
Right.
Embrace the challenge experiment. Have fun.
Have fun.
And watch as you unlock
the
incredible power of thinking in English.
I love it.